Happy New Year! Yay! 2021!
Thanks, God.
So, I'm Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And this is Raqs Talks. And this year, we have Sahira from Learn to Bellydance. Yay!
Hi, Sahira. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my goodness, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk to you ladies.
We're very excited to have you on this show. We heard good things. So let's just dive right into it. How did you get started in belly dance like we ask every one of our guests?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. I don't feel like my story is very different from most people's. It's one of those, like, I saw it and I said, ooh, I want to do that. Like, I saw it here in Houston. I'm in Houston, Texas. I used to go to this little art house on Tuesday nights. They had a show. I mean, this was like 22 years ago. They had a show called Gothic Belly Dance. And I would go with my college friends on a Tuesday night and watch the show and just kind of ooh and ah. And it was probably like a year after that, having gone to the show several times and loving it, that I was at an event in the park here and someone was handing out flyers for Leisure Learning is what the program was called. And they had a belly dance course. And I was like, I think this is something I would like to do. And the rest is history, right? I went to my first class and was like so excited. And then I did 2 classes a week and 3 classes a week. And now it's my full-time job. That's the only part of it that like wasn't necessarily totally by choice. Like, I was an engineer by day and like belly dancing in the evenings and loved my job. But a couple of years into my belly dancing process here, I ended up getting laid off from my job in a super ugly way. And I vowed to never work for anyone ever again. And I haven't worked for anyone ever again. At that point, I had like probably danced like 3 times for money. And I was like, you got nothing to lose. And so, yeah, I literally just like packed up my belongings, started dancing at Renaissance festivals, and built my belly dance career from there. And that was nearly 20 years ago. So I think it's working out pretty well.
That's really cool. Who was your teacher?
Yeah, my very first teacher here in Houston. I remember it vividly because I went to my class, and I'm sure this happens to people all of the time. I went to my class and I'm standing around waiting for the teacher to come, and I fully expected like Jasmine from Aladdin to like waltz out and teach me. And instead, this amazing woman, Cheryl, she after that became my veterinarian because she's a veterinarian by day. She came out, she's like 5'2", had big glasses on, and she was about 10 months pregnant at the time. And she comes out to teach class, and I was like, huh? I was like, all right, well, let's give this a try. And obviously it was amazing because I came back. So I took a class from her, and then I took from a beautiful dancer here in town. Her dance name is Shakira Masood Ali. And then I took with the owner of the studio, Thalia. She was absolutely incredible. And both of these are like American women trained, here in Houston. They're also Bobby dolls. They studied with Bobby Farah out in New York. And so that's kind of my lineage, right? My first belly dance mamas were students of Bobby Farah, and that's how I came to the dance.
I love like dancers, like I want to call it like off-duty dancers, because one of my favorites is we have a lady out here, one of the LA legends. Her name's Anahid, and she's a librarian.
I think it's so cool. I meet so many belly dancers who are like, biologists by day or architects, like a lot of really brainiac women in the dance. And I just think that's the coolest because they've got like both sides of the brain and both sides of their personality working, and it's awesome. I love that we can connect on so many levels.
I actually used to dance with an engineer. She worked out at NASA. She would like talk about when she was making her costumes, like all of the engineering that went into it, and it was like, yeah, I just slap stuff on.
She's the one, but she's funny because she specifically wrote an algorithm for her bra somehow. Like she figured out the formula for her like ideal like lift and push kind of lift, push, and separate.
Love her already. I mean, I talk about like angles in class a lot, and I'll be like, well, this is perhaps like a 45 or maybe a 30-degree angle. And then we often talk about like physics and theories of relativity when we are moving with movements. And one year I actually had a student buy me as a gift, because I would talk about angles so much, they bought me like a light up protractor that I could bring to class, so that if I wasn't quite sure if it was a 30 or a 45 degree angle, I could measure it. And I was like, you're awesome. That's so cool.
That is hilarious. Now, I have noticed, because I have subscribed to your YouTube channel, that you do talk about angles, but that's good, because something like with my students that I'm always trying to tell them, point your big toe on your non-weighted foot, the direction of your audience, and that will keep you from having your back to them. But that's something that I have noticed in your videos, and you'll like talk about the angle of part of your body. This part of your body should be angled this way, and this part of your body should be angled that way. And I love that. And I was saying earlier that I actually send my students to your channel because you explain it and you break it down really, really well. And so it's a great supplement for my students. So I can just be like, here you go. Now I don't have to make a video for you.
Thank you for that. It's the engineer in me. Like every once in a while in class, I'm like, sorry guys, am I getting too engineering? Let's just dance. Like I love that, right? I love to like look at the angles and analyze what is it that makes something look really beautiful and feel really good. And so yeah, that it comes out. It's my engineering brain at work.
But speaking of the online components, and so many dancers are having to move online as of 2020, what were some of the struggles that you kind of came up with, or what were some of the things that you kind of had to figure out and navigate around when you were taking your class practice and converting it for not just online, but a YouTube setup where people have like no attention span. And it's like 3 minutes. Teach me how the entire dance in 3 minutes, or get out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I consider myself so lucky and so blessed with everything that has happened because I've been online now. I've had an online studio for the past 9 years, and I've been on YouTube, I don't know, for the last like 14 or 15 years teaching classes. I didn't have my own channel at first. I was actually hired by an outside channel called howto.com, but all those videos of mine have disappeared because I think Howto has pulled them, or they don't have them on anymore. But they hired me to produce videos way back in the day, and then I started building my own stuff easily, 12, 13 years ago. But when all of this hit the fan, right, last year, I luckily was already online. Like I realized in this moment, I had this light bulb moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am totally set to just keep running. Right? I moved all of my regular in-person classes online because I already had a setup to record classes, right? And then I already had my online library. I had YouTube to draw people to my online library. I just kept chugging along, right? And so luckily, I didn't have a lot of struggles in that moment. I did have some like moving everything to Zoom and like, of course, Zoom and audio and Zoom and all of that we've all kind of, really kind of struggled with and figured out now. But back in the day, so I had gotten to do work out all the kinks approximately 9 years ago, which was pretty awesome because it gave me time. I worked out the kinks over a long period of time because I certainly, when I first went online with my recorded content that wasn't YouTube, it was sort of a new platform, and it wasn't something you saw a lot of belly dancers doing. I feel like belly dance was maybe a little bit behind the times when it came to dance online, and I was on a platform called Powwow that no longer exists, and it was mostly for live classes. And I mean, the biggest struggles I had with that was just the darn technology. Like the number of classes where I would teach to like a screen of frozen students, and I'm like, I really hope you're seeing me, but I don't know if you are, and I just keep going. And the number of times that like people, calls would drop and all of a sudden something's going on, because this was, 9 years ago. And so the technology and internet speeds was not what it was today. Right. But then just figuring out like, how do you, once I kind of transitioned that and started creating the online library of courses, like how do you recreate the classroom in the online library? Because as you know, like students, when they come in to take belly dance, yeah, they want to learn to like shake it like Shakira or whatever, right? They want to learn some good moves, but there's a lot more that they're looking for, right? They're looking for community, they're looking for connection, they're looking for a sense of well-being and a sense of place. And like, how can I do that when they are like in a box on a screen, right? And how can I connect with them? And so that was what I have spent the last 9 years figuring out. Like, yes, the technology is important and I need to figure out how to do that. And yes, I have to figure out, what kind of waivers and insurance and the whole music rights debacle. I've got to figure out how to do all of that. But beyond that, like, how can I provide an environment where my students feel seen and they feel connected with these people who are not actually physically in a space with them, So I've spent a lot of time really creating an online community so that people feel that they belong to something bigger than like just this class they log into once or twice a week or whatever. And then taking that, so that was a big struggle that I'm always continually expanding, but I've found some really good methods to do that. And then just looking at how you teach, like things that work in person that when you're online, it takes you a while to figure out, like, yeah, y'all can't see this, right? Like this is not trying to see the looks on people's faces. If you can even see their face on the camera, right? And you're like, yeah, something's not working here. So figuring out like how to use technology to your advantage and figuring out like how to tweak your teaching style and your curriculum so that it's like the best possible setup for this format, which is different than being in the classroom with someone.
So how do you create community with people that are, dispersed?
Yes, this is a big one. And this is something that I love focusing on. So people, when they sign up for my online library of classes through Teachable, they're then invited to join a Facebook group. And the Facebook group is like just for people who are subscribers of mine. And we get on there and we just talk about everything. Right? I always say, post to me, send me a video, let me know what you're up to. When I post new content like to YouTube or to social media, I share it with them and I try to strike up conversations. Like, I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you want to learn? What are you struggling with? Like so often, what people want to talk about is their experience. So I get into the group and I'm like, what are you working on this week? I'd love to know. Or like, during Halloween, I love Halloween. So I'm like, will you guys post pictures of your costumes? I want to see. And then everyone starts posting pictures about their costumes and talking about it. I've started a belly dance book club. We just had a meeting today. I've been doing that online now for the past 10 months. And we meet once a month to discuss books online. It's totally free. We always read something that is belly dance related. And then we just get together and chat. And so it's taking it beyond the walls of the classroom. I think for me, that was the first thing I started doing was how can we kind of become friends? How can you get to know me on a different level so that you come back because you like me, you want to hang out with me, you like and want to hang out with the other people in class, right? Because that's half of why we go to an in-studio class. We jive with the teacher, we like the space, we make friends. And you all know, when you have friends who are waiting for you in class, you're way more likely to go. And so creating friendships that extend beyond the boundaries of your computer, that are more than just that, one Wednesday at 6:30 every week that you do that's been huge. And I think another thing, especially with the online format and, using Zoom and whatnot, is really actually seeing your student. Right? What I love that everybody's got their names down in the corner. I'm terrible with names. I'm horrible with names. But now everyone's got their name tag on and I'm like, oh yeah, I can call everyone by name and I can actually, reach out to them and say, okay, I see you and I see you're doing this. Do you have any questions? Or, oh my gosh, that looked really awesome. But kind of the same stuff that I would do in class, but gets lost immediately once people are behind the screen. I feel like a lot of that gets lost because you're dealing with technology and you're looking at a whole screen of people and it's kind of weird. But making sure that I'm reaching out and connecting with, I try to mention, notice every student in each class, mention them by name. Yes, they're being seen. They're not just there dancing in front of their computer while in their bathroom and there's nobody, paying attention. So just so that people really know that yeah, I actually can see you and I'm trying to feed back with you, and just kind of going above and beyond. There's a lot of work that goes into providing really excellent online classes and just trying to give them extra opportunities to connect with me. I started inviting my students after months of being frustrated of trying to look at the details while they're dancing, and I'm like, looks pretty good, but of course everyone's offset from the music by 2 counts because you just can't sync up the audio. So I told my students, I said, you just need to take a quick video of you practicing this at home and send it to me, and I will send you back some constructive input and we can talk about it more, so that people really feel like they're getting the value and they're being seen. And that's been huge too, because people see themselves improving and they see that it's worthwhile to continue doing.
It feels good for me to hear you say that because I've been saying and then editing out because I think it sounds too catty that I just think it's so important for people to have feedback in classrooms in this online format, because I feel like that's one of the biggest things that we're losing in the year of 2020 is I don't have to drive all the way there so I can do this, but I think the thing that we're the most likely to lose in 2020 is the progress because of the lack of feedback that people are receiving right now. And one of the things that I'm always is well, if you're not taking the time to sit back and watch your students as best you can with their dumb Wi-Fi.
See them from here to here, you know?
Yeah. But like, if you're not giving feedback, then why are people paying like $15 a week to come to class with you when they could pay that one time for a DVD and get about as much feedback on it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those things where I understand like everybody's trying to come up to speed. People are just wrapping their head around how do I, you know, do all of this in front of a camera, but this is, you know, the next step, because we don't know when we're coming out of this. We don't know the next time we get to see each other in person and everything like that. We need to move forward and move into what you have done, what one of our friends, Laura Lael, is for sure doing, and what a couple, you know, what some teachers have already figured out, which is we need to be looking back on feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like even when we can get back in the classrooms with each other, the demand for online learning is not going to go away. So many teachers who've been like, you know what, I'm not going to go online because, you know, I mean, back in March, we were like, well, you know, a couple months, it's fine, I'll just take a break. And now we know, okay, so maybe we should be getting online. Like, we don't know when it's going to end. But even when it does end, like, I am not going to get rid of the online options that I have developed, because it's allowed me to open up my world to so many other dancers, to provide, you know, service in places that I've never been able to do before, to keep in touch with people that I meet at workshops when I travel, all of that stuff. And so I think it's beneficial for us now that we're like kind of in this crucible of change to really just take that opportunity. Like right now, I feel like it's still okay to get online and sort of suck at it for a little bit. Because like we're figuring it out. Everybody's figuring it out together. And so I know a lot of people are nervous because they're like, oh, I don't have the best setup, or I don't exactly know how all the tech works, or there's all these great big names that are already teaching online. Why the heck would I do it? But I'm like, do it. Like, you don't have to be perfect. No one's looking for perfection. They're looking for that feedback. They're looking for community. They're looking for belonging. They're looking for a place they really want to be every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to see their friends, have the chance to hang out. I always log in early and stay a little late after class to like give people that hangout time like you would do in the studio, right? And so like figure it out now, work through it, it's going to be messy, it's okay, you know, and then you're set up for the foreseeable future. And that's a really worthwhile investment. Between I take the videos of the class and I post videos for my students to be able to access after class, and then I spend the time reviewing the videos that they send me, right, to really make sure that they're truly getting value out of the class. People, you know, previously learning with DVD back in the day, I used to have a few DVDs out on the market back in the day. And I feel like, especially us, because we live in big cities, right, belly dance classes have always been available. For a long time, I had a lot of students purchase DVDs who lived in remote areas, and there just like wasn't the option of studying with a teacher. Definitely not live, you know, they're in person. There was just no way. And not even like live online back in like 2005 when I released my first DVD. And luckily we're in an era now, and not across the board, because there are still people who don't have like good enough internet to be able to get onto these classes to study with someone. And so, you know, luckily those boundaries are being removed, you know, a bit at a time. But I'm sure there still exist people who are kind of stuck, like it's online or nothing, right? Because they don't have anything else that they can do. And so so it's up to us as instructors to make that online realm like as constructive as possible for our students' needs. You know, what are they looking for? What do we want to make sure that they have? You know, be it maybe they're just looking for wellness and exercise, and you want to make sure body posture wise they're not doing anything harmful to themselves. Maybe they really do want to master the dance, and you want to look at all of those details with them. But yeah, being sure that you're able to truly connect with them as deeply as possible, considering the medium. And I think if you get creative, there's a lot of ways to go deeper than what that little square, you know, might afford you normally.
Yeah.
Very good way to put that.
Yes. And I just love that you're like, this is how we build a community. I am all about community when it comes to everything, but like community and dance and everything. And so that just, it warms my little liberal heart.
Yay! Yeah, it's important. I just always remember like what drew me to the dance, right? And I want to remember that and maintain that. It was definitely the community. Obviously, like the dance itself and the music, it was all very exciting. But what kept me coming back were the relationships that I formed. Right. And so being able to continue to make that happen, even though we are separate, and then this is a skill that will behoove us well throughout any, this quarantine and God forbid any future quarantines, like being able to maintain community and connection even when we're forced to be physically separated. Like, I think it's more important now than ever for online educators to be able to foster that, because it's a lifeline for so many people. I have students who are, are quarantined at home with no one else, and perhaps they see almost no one else. But they see me. They see me every single week, and we become friends. And not only do they see me for class, but they're going to come to book club. And I did a whole bunch of like online dance parties at the beginning of quarantine. Every single Friday night, I'm like, "What you guys doing? You want to dance?" And I would just like play DJ, and we'd all turn on our cameras and like dance like crazy people. Because I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. You going anywhere? Let's hang out,
As I was driving up here, I was just talking to my boyfriend about it on the phone, just saying, like, if this quarantine has proven anything to us, it's that the need for human connection is immutable. Like, it's something that, like, because that's the thing. People know that they are more or less risking death of themselves, of others. They're risking this, but they're willing to risk this for human connection.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's like, I definitely subscribe to Datura, and Datura Online is amazing. But
as do I.
But the thing is that and the teachers are incredible, but like there isn't that connection, and it's the ability to even just say like, "Hi, Sahira," like just before we get into it, like even just having that moment, having a connection of like, I see you and I am seen, so important. I mean, like, we're talking about 2005. I grew up on chat rooms, like that's why I can type like 75 words a minute because I would argue with strangers. But it was you would come back and you would look for your online chat room friends. It's the reason why MMORPGs. It's what I mean. Like, yes, World of Warcraft is keeps coming out with new expansions and new expansions and new expansions, but part of it is the community that these things create, and it's being able to log on and see your friends. That, like, I'm sure you have students who have never met each other in person, but they are online besties.
Oh yeah, that they always talk, when we get together and do book club, they get the chance to talk together. And yeah, absolutely. And I think this is something that's really encouraging for, like, I call myself like the small fry teachers, like the not huge names, like, I am not Datura and I never will be. They're amazing, right? But like, this is something that smaller instructors who don't have as big of a following have a little bit of an advantage in a way, because we can take the time to be individual, right? If you only have 10 students as opposed to 1,000 students. With 1,000 students, you can't acknowledge them every week. There's no way to really create those connections. It's much more challenging. But if you are just starting out and you've got, 5 really dedicated students, you can really give them your all, and you can really create amazing personalized connection with them, which someone who has a bigger following in a bigger studio just can't do by sheer number, right?
Right.
That's so important too. It's like, go take the workshop with Jelena or Sadie when they come through, but like 95% of what you learn, you're going to be learning from your teacher through your Parks and Rec or at the local dance studio.
Right. And this is what I always say, because I have a lot of instructors coming to me and they're like, yeah, I'd go online, but why bother? Because you can, especially now, like you could study with some really big names before the pandemic, and now like everyone has been forced to move online, so you can study with pretty much anyone you want, anytime that you want. But I say so much of what students are looking for when they find an instructor is that like spark of personality, right? You want to find someone that you really jive with, whose energy you really like, whose content you like, so as long as you're going to find someone who has a basic, amount of information and an ability to translate that information to you. Of course, you're looking for that. But beyond, once you've gotten past that base level of knowledge in the form, you're looking for someone who you think is pretty cool, like that has the teaching style that draws you in, has the personality that draws you in, has the style of dance that draws you in. And that's why there's room for everybody, right? There's so many different teaching personalities out there, and that's a wonderful thing, because everyone can find someone that really connects to them, really speaks to them, and allows them to learn at their optimal level. And it might not be the big name, that might not be the person who's best suited to teach that person. And so I always say, find out who your ideal customer is. Like if you're looking to really draw in more students, what is it that you do really well? What is your superhero power? What is it that you pride yourself on and is really special about your classes? And who's going to be drawn to that? and tell them about your classes, right? Your goal is not to make your online classes great for everybody, because it's a little too generic, right? You want to make your classes really good for, you know, working moms looking to get back into dance, to, you know, find their fitness post baby, you know, body, that kind of thing. Or you know, I always say, like, I love to work with students who maybe haven't had the encouragement that they needed other places. I've had a lot of students come to me who've said, oh, you know, I took classes for years with someone else, but I never felt like I was doing it right. And I just got a little frustrated, and maybe, you know, they got impatient with me. And I'm like, I have all the patience in the world, and I will be your biggest cheerleader, you know? And so I am like the yay, rah, rah teacher, like, you can do it. And I have people come to me, a lot of older women who just, like, they're not looking to go pro. They just want to, like, feel good in their bodies and want someone who's going to totally accept them for who they are. And I love that. I'm like, come into my world. This is going to be great, you know?
That's so true. There used to be several teachers in my area. And there were times when I had a student that just, not that we didn't like each other or anything, but my style just didn't click with them, or it wasn't this like, they wanted to do a different style, and I'm doing this style or whatever. They couldn't understand, like, we couldn't communicate well or whatever. And so I would recommend, hey, why don't you try this other teacher that's at this studio or that studio, and their classes are on at this time. And sometimes that would work out really well. And I would rather have somebody go to a different teacher and still be belly dancing than give it up because I'm not the right teacher for them.
Right.
And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that everyone wants that person that they connect with, that they can receive the information from the best. So
I love that. And I think that, like, congrats to you for doing that. Like, thank you for doing that. Because I feel like sometimes teachers really want to hold on to their students, no matter what, you know, because sometimes it's easy for teachers to get possessive of students, or they need the income or whatever. And so I think it takes a confident and caring instructor to say, hey, you know, you're awesome, I love you, but, like, I think this other instructor is going to be really good for you, and I wish more instructors were like you and could do that, could see that, and to know that there is plenty for everyone, and it is good that there are all these instructors out there that are all so different. That way we can make sure that every student finds what's best for them.
To your point about, like, you know, people trying to find their students, I know that we talked a little bit about the fact that you have just launched an online course to help teachers move online.
Yes. Well, this was what I thought, like, the thought process I had back in March when it all hit the fan. I was like, oh, crap. And then I was like, oh, wait. Okay, I'm all set up. Like, I had literally told my students the last time we met in the studio, I told them, I said, if anything happens between this Wednesday and next Wednesday, look at your email, look in our Facebook group. I said, we will have class next week no matter what happens, I promise you. And we moved right online. So I was like, okay. And then I thought, well, I've got all this info, like, I should share it with others. And I immediately did a webinar, like, the very next week. And I had like over 100 dancers show up, because I was like, let's get you online really fast. And it was just like a 90-minute thing with, like, boom, boom, boom. Here's the tech. Here's the way to kind of structure your classes. This is what I'm doing. This is what's worked for me. You know, go forth and prosper, right? And then I thought about it some more, and I got a lot of questions from people and a lot of people following up with me. And I was like, I really need to pivot my business a bit and teach teachers for the first time in my life. I've always just taught students, right? And now I thought, I have a body of knowledge that could directly benefit any movement instructor, really. Obviously, I focus on belly dance because that's my genre, but any movement instructor who is suddenly finding themselves at home without their studio to teach in, and, like, wondering if they're going to be able to hold class and make an income. And I'm like, if I can put together the information that I have and help someone get online, keep their community going, keep their students moving, which is so important right now for people to maintain some sense of normalcy, something that is loved to them, to give them energy to keep them moving, right? And then to keep money moving, right? Let's keep our economy flowing by, you know, allowing people to continue to do the work that they love. And so I said, okay, I'm going to put together a course. And at one point in time, I don't know what I was smoking, but I was like, by May, I'm going to put this course together by May. So I released it in November because it ended up being, it's a 7-part course. that takes you through, like literally, like I was like, what is everything that I needed to do to get online successfully? And it starts with getting up the confidence to believe that you're worthy to be online, right? Which a lot of instructors, this was the number one. They were like, oh, well, who am I? I'm like, who are you? You're exactly who a whole bunch of people need right now, right? And so I have a whole unit on getting up the confidence. Of course, I have a whole unit on the tech, right? Because that's the first thing most people struggle with. A unit on music rights and licensing and waivers and insurance, thoughts on pricing. So I call it the nitty gritty. I have a whole unit on creating community because that's huge. I have a unit on creating your home studio space. So like, what if you live in a small apartment and you're trying to figure out where the heck do I teach if I don't have a studio to go to? So I have a whole unit that details like creative ways to utilize space. And it has like a lookbook of photos that I've collected from other online instructors of how they have augmented their spaces to be able to teach at home and not like, you know, take over their living room so that their like husband or their kids aren't allowed to be in there, like figure out how to make it work, right? And then I have a whole unit on how to tweak your teaching to make it work for the online realm. And then the one I just finished, which is the one I'm most excited about, is all about how to create online content for recurring income. Now that you're online in front of your computer, like hit record, publish it, and make it evergreen so you can sell it later. Right? Like get to a point where you're not directly trading your time for money, but you can take what you've already done and repurpose it to be able to sell it as a recorded video package later. And that way you can grow your business that way.
Smart. Nice. I'm going to take this course.
I would love for you to, I would love to help you like kill it online. Totally kill it.
I have to admit, I've been feeling a bit like I've been floundering. And, you know, it's hard. Part of it is that my eyes are aging and I can't see when I'm doing a class. I'm like, are you doing, you know, I can't see if somebody's doing it right. So I've been focused on my private lesson students because each of them get their own private group on Facebook where they can post their videos so that I can look at them and we can chat back and forth there. And then I have the video and I can open it on my computer and see it. So but this course sounds amazing because like I said, I've been feeling like I've been floundering and I've been trying this and then that didn't work and I'll try this and that doesn't work. And I mean, if somebody has already tried everything and is willing to share that,
well, yeah, and there's so many different ways to do it. So I tell people really like I specialize in quick and easy. Like I didn't buy a bunch of extra equipment to go online. I do not have the fanciest audio setup. I don't have like a mixer and a mixing board and all the things. I don't have all the things. I'm just like, let's just do it. Let's get online and let's do it. Like I'm like, what I tell people, I said, take your phone, tape it to the wall, hit record, and start. Better as you go along, right? Like don't worry about getting like a nice camera and great audio and lights and all this stuff. Like you can get it as you grow, but just go ahead and like get out, just jump in the water, right? It's gonna be cold, just jump in and it won't hurt as much, right? And you can kind of figure it out as you go along. And so there's so many ways. Mine is not the only way. It may not even be the best way in all honesty, but it worked. Like I did it and it worked. So I'm very happy to just give it to people and be like, try this formula and see if it works for you.
Well, I mean, I knew about you before we ever interacted, so obviously it works.
I'm doing something right.
Awesome. It's interesting because, like, in some ways, with the way the world is right now, we have the ability to be so much more connected, but because we're like also very stressed out, we're like not connecting the way in a healthy way.
Right.
And so belly dance should be a way for us to connect in a positive way. So
absolutely. And I think also it's really important to remember like what it is that brought us to the dance. I think now people kind of we're stressed out in general, right? And so then belly dance becomes like this thing, like our practice is this thing that we're supposed to be doing that's on our to-do list and we're stressed out about it and I'm not good enough and what am I going to practice and I'm behind on and like it becomes just another source of stress, which is so sad to me. It's happened to me. I'm not saying it's never happened to me. It's totally like practice the thing is totally on my list. I'm like, oh my God, I got to practice the thing, you know, but I think if we can remember like, oh yeah, I'm like, one, I can spend some time in my day belly dancing. Like how fabulously privileged is that, right? I have the resource to like log onto a class and actually study an art form from another country. Wow, right? And then if we just like allow ourselves to enjoy that movement, I mean, belly dance for me has been my therapy for the last like 20 years of my life, but definitely for the last like 9 or 10 months. 100%. This is where I go when I'm like, I can't do the homeschool thing anymore. I'm going to the studio. Leave me alone. I need 15 minutes, you know, and move and just enjoy it and allow it to be, you know, a healing process and part of the happy part of your life and not yet another to do or something that you are, you know, you're dreading. Like either find the way to make it beautiful, or I always tell my students, if you're in a place where it's not bringing you joy, and I've had several students tell me like right now the idea of dancing stresses me out, or the idea of dancing in front of a camera stresses me out.
Right.
And I get it. I'm like, I love you. Like I wish there was a way that I could make it joyful for you again, but if you need to take a break until we can do this in person, like I totally respect it. Do what you need to do for you, and hopefully every person knows what it is that they need to do for themselves so that they can use this dance hopefully for the best it can bring them and not allow it to be an additional stressor in their life.
Yeah, it's supposed to bring positive things. It's not supposed to be a punishment. It's
no one is being sentenced to belly dance.
Right.
Well, we have been at this for a while and having such a great time, but I think we should let you go.
This has been amazing. I could talk to you ladies all night. I really could. You're so much fun.
Before we go, Sahira, though, can you please just remind us of your social media and where everybody can find your fabulous classes?
Absolutely. You can find me everywhere at Sahira Bellydances. I am Sahira Bellydances on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. My website is sahirabellydances.com, and you can go directly to my Teachable, where my new course, which is called Designing Your Ideal Online Classroom, is at sahirabellydances.teachable.com.
Well, that was Sahira. Sahira, thank you so much for taking the time and coming to talk to us in the new year. First episode. Yeah. Anyway, we are going to continue to put out new videos. Every other Wednesday we have interviews. Otherwise, we do live streams on Wednesdays. So stay tuned for that. Give us a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. But otherwise, I am Perizaad.
I'm Faizeh.
And we will see you next week. Masalama!